James 3, if you look at Matthew 7, anytime you go and you want to read this in your own time, if you look at Matthew 7, you're going to see it's kind of reversed in James 3. It's Matthew 7 reversed. It's really crazy that James is talking about this. But here's something that we haven't got to talk quite about James with, is James was actually against Jesus' ministry when it first started. He was actually one of the people who went against him the most and said he was going against the religious leaders and that he was just trying to raise a ruckus. He was just trying to start a rebellion. He was just trying to, little brother, big brother talk. Let's be real. You know how that goes, little brother, big brother. Like, that's kind of where we were, little brother, big brother talk. So, that being said, that's where James was. And so the reason we need to know that going into James 3 is this important. Because he's thinking about his words as we talk about the beginning of James 3. So I imagine the words he said to Jesus. Because see, he was always with Jesus, Peter, James, and John. Remember, they're always with Jesus. They were with him when he transfigured. They were with him in the Garden of Gethsemane. They slept the whole time. Maybe they ate some cookies. And they slept, right? They slept the whole time. He was really, really there with them. And so James is starting to step into his role as a leader. And so he's reminding the church of these things. So we've been talking about the blueprint of the Christian life. And literally, we've been talking about where our faith is. We've been talking about how we listen and do. Walking through trials, that was week 1. Talk about our favoritism here. Talk about our works actually show our faith instead of the other way around. Instead of our faith, our works getting us through our faith. And tonight, if you've got a heading, how we're going to start James is literally, it's really easy. We're talking about taming the tongue. So if you're taking notes, we're going to be this way. Yeah, I know. We're going to talk about, number 1, the power of your words. And now I wish I could tame my tongue, but I don't need to do that. Not your tongue, my tongue. Now we're going to dive into that just a little bit, which is some really crazy cool things. So James 3, talking about the beginning, is we're going to talk about the power of your words. And we're literally going to break this into 1 through 12, and then 13 through 18. And then tonight we're going to do the questions at the end. We're not going to break it up. We're going to do the questions at the end, okay? And I'll make sure we don't record it so that way nobody makes fun of us. So that kind of thing. So I told you, I don't have all the answers to James. I would encourage you to read it. Maybe Jesus is going to teach you something different out of it that you can teach me. And so I don't have all the answers. But I can tell you, I try to prepare for this, and I believe that Jesus does have something special for us, because the thing about the power of our words is, he says his word will not return void. He's already sent this out, so the words that I'm going to get to share with you tonight, he's already got a purpose for. Isn't that crazy? So tonight we're going to talk about the power of the words to begin with. So James 3 verse 1 says this: "Now many of you should become teachers." Oops. "My fellow believers. Because you know that we who teach will be judged more strictly." You know, a lot of times, that's the hardest thing of speaking sometimes. Is because I know I'm going to be held accountable for my words. And now that we all aren't, that just means accountability of my words were prepared. Did I surrender myself to Jesus to let his words be the one that comes across, or was it all about me? And so that's the hardest thing so many times with my words. So understand that teachers are held to a higher standard. We all stumble in many ways. Praise God. We know that. Anyone who is never at fault and what they say is perfect, or they're lying, able to keep their whole body in check. When we put bits in the mouth of horses to make them obey us, we can turn the whole animal. Or take ships as an example. Although they are so large, they are driven by strong winds. They are steered by a very small rudder wherever the pilot wants to go. This is crazy when we think about it. The tongue is also a fire. A world of evil among the parts of, world of evil among the parts of the body. It corrupts the whole body. Sets the whole course of one's life on fire, and itself is set on fire by hell. So, before we move on, I don't get to watch much TV. I know there's some craziness happening with people being under oath, not under oath right now. I don't have time for all that drama, that soap opera stuff. I just don't have time for it. I know the world's searching, and the church has the answer. We just got to step up. But it makes me wonder so many times if my words speak truth. Because the whole big deal about being under oath and not under oath is, did you speak the truth under oath? And the power of my words are that I speak in truth. Because if not, my tongue is fire. Now we know about tongues of fire coming down at Pentecost, which is really cool. But James, being little brother, has to flip it, because this hasn't happened yet in the Acts church. When that happens, it hasn't happened. The church is scattered, right? The church is going through these things. Like, he's saying your tongue can be a fire that can set it ablaze. So I don't know if you know how important a fire is. Did you know that they just had that big wildfire, I think in California, wasn't it? Burned 300 or a million acres. I'm gonna say 300, but that's a lot of acres. I might be making it up. But burned millions of acres. We know that, right? Do you know how it started? They just arrested the guy. He just pleaded guilty for it. He was a park ranger, had a gender reveal party, and he shot the balloon, and when he did, he sparked a fire from the ammo being shot. That small thing started a fire. See, words have power. I'm looking at it the opposite way that James did, and I'm saying the words have power on the opposite side too, is it can be a fire that spreads good, it spreads life, it spreads truth, or it can be this thing that burns and leaves just ground shattered, and leaves people shattered and tattered. So know that. Your tongue is like a fire. All kinds of animals, birds, and reptiles and sea creatures are being tamed and have been tamed by mankind. But no human being can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil, full of deadly poison. Wow. With the tongue we praise our Lord the Father, and with it we curse human beings. We have been made in God's likeness. Out of the same mouth come praise and cursing. My brothers and sisters, this should not be. Can both fresh water and salt water flow from the same spring? My brothers and sisters, can a fig tree bear olives or a grapevine bear figs? Neither can a salt spring produce fresh water. So before we go on to this verse 13, I just want to tell you, this is crazy what they're talking about here. Like I said, go back to Matthew 7 sometime and you'll see this is literally James answering back. What struck me not only is it talks about our tongue being a fire here, but cursing in this time isn't the word. And that's where we get caught up. Because we scream at kids for the curse words, right? Because they were in the car, they heard us run the red light, they heard us say the sweet thing to the person next to us that cut us off, right? Like, we say that's a curse word, right? Like, that's a cuss word. Like, you're cussing that person, it's a curse. But in this time, in the time that this was written, the curse was about the heart. It had nothing to do with the word. That's why so many times we have to see the power of that word is when we tell kids and we tell our family members you're cussing someone out or you're cursing them, you're actually giving power to the word, because out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks, right? So the cursing he's talking about is actually your heart wanting to do evil to those around you. Because here's the thing, 99.5% of us genetically are the same. 0.5% is different. Eye color, hair color, skin color, toenail color, I don't know. Those things. All of us that's a little bit of difference we have, right? 99.5% of us are the same. But we're all made in God's image. And yet when we curse someone, we're actually not cursing them. We're cursing the very image of God. And so that's why James is talking about the power of your words and the power of the tongue, and how this little thing can curse what God made. And I find myself in that trap. I don't think about that. I find myself in that trap too. I mean, I think we all do, but if I think about the power of my words in that sense, I wonder if I'm really noticing that can make a difference, good, bad, or indifferent. Most of the time, it's either going to be tipping the scale of life, encouragement, and peace, or death, destruction, burning that thing down, right? That's where my words can be. So I want you to know the context of what he's saying is, hey, praising God on Sunday and cussing people out on Monday isn't a life to live if you're a Christian. We're not perfect. We haven't got the tongue tamed. We don't have it all together. Yes, but at the same time, understand the rest of the world experiences that all the time. So the power of our words is so important. This thing I read about salt really quickly, without getting you too crazy off the wall here, is, I don't know, I grew up learning about salt. Salt's important. Like, if I over-salted the meat, it'd be a big deal, right? So salt in this time frame. Did I? Was it good? It was good. It was salty. No, I'm just kidding. Like, salt matters. Like, I don't know if you know, in this time frame, salt was used for a lot of things. Believe it or not, the old phrase, salt in my wounds, that actually happened. People put salt in the wounds. People used salt to preserve things, to heal things. Mm-hmm. So Jesus said that we are supposed to be what in life? Salt in life. So when we hear salt here, we think of it something different. Like, we think of all the craziness. But if you go back to Matthew 5, you go back to Matthew 7, Jesus said, what good is salt? You are the salt of the earth. So what happens when salt has lost its saltiness? It's thrown out, right? It has no power. It's not worthwhile. But we look at salt so many times as a seasoning. But it's not just a seasoning. It's actually healing. Salt can be healing. And that can happen through the power of our words. They can bring life and healing. But yet so many times we talk about being salty. We clapping back at people, that head's flapping, them jaws is going. We think salty is something different. But when we look at this in the blueprint for the Christian life, is saltiness is bringing healing. It's preserving someone. It's actually helping for everyone to be salty. Yet so many times in our life, we misconstrued that word, right? We've tore that up. So that's why I said we're in verse 12. I love where James is saying, my brothers and sisters. Can a fig tree bear olives? Or a grapevine bear figs? So if you ever to go back in your studies, or you ever wanted to go or see where this is in Matthew 7, you can always go back to Matthew 7, verse 15 through 20, and you'll see that this is where James is responding back to Jesus, is literally right there. And I mean, really quickly, I'll read it out loud. We're not going to dive too much into it, but I just want to tell you, if you ever want to see where this is a Sermon on the Mount, it'll blow your mind. Blow your mind. Matthew 7, verse 15 through 20. Listen what Jesus says here. True and false prophets. Watch out for false prophets. They come at you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ferocious wolves. By their fruit you will recognize them. Do people pick grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Likewise, every good tree bears good fruit. This is what happens with your words. Words that have life will bear good fruit. Words that have life will bear peace. Words that divide will divide and tear down and burn down. But a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear good fruit, and a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. So a good can't bear bad, and a bad can't bear good. So every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Thus, by their fruit, you will recognize them. And right before that, Jesus talked about judging others, which was last week, and even what we're about to walk into. So what blows my mind is the power of my words. Jesus talked about a good tree can't bear bad fruit. My bad words can't bear good fruit, but I send them out like crazy, don't I? I link stamp that thing. I can't wait till they get that. I'm ready to go, right? Like, I wonder how many times I would send out that good word and that good note, and then it would go back and it would bring life and healing. And understand the power of my words. Sometimes it's okay to be silent, because the words you're going to say ain't going to bring peace. Sometimes you just have to be silent, and I wish I would have learned that. But what James is suggesting is that I need a bridle and a bit to chew down on, so that I can go the right way. So if I walk around with that, I'm not trying to build my testimony. I'm just trying to shut up, y'all. It is what it is. Trying to shut up. I do that kind of thing. Trying to shut up, right? Like, that's where I'm at. So I wonder how many times in our life we would be willing to do that with our tongue. To hold it when we need to hold it. To share it when we need to share it. Continuing on, then we'll get to the questions. Godly wisdom. James is trying to tell us about godly wisdom. Godly wisdom. Godly wisdom. So I wrote down some things here I really want to share with you. So what is the wisdom of the world? What does the world tell us wisdom is?
Going to college.
Going to college. Yes, that's a good one. What else? Looking at me.
Not understanding the question.
What is worldly wisdom? So what is worldly wisdom?
Experience.
Experience.
Yeah.
College, experience. What else? These are good answers. I
Having
love
a
it.
good job,
Keep going.
I guess.
Having a good job. Career. The American dream there.
Money,
The American dream. What now?
money.
Money, fame, cars, clothes, right?
Mhm.
Like the worldly wisdom is it's all about me. And that's what it boils down to. But we're born into worldly wisdom, aren't we? Like that 6-month-old that's crying and needs a diaper change. They're helpless, they can't help themselves, but it's all about me. I don't care that it's 3:30 and you haven't slept more than 15 minutes. My diaper needs changed. I'm gonna cry. And we're born into that, the wisdom of the world. And yet so many times what happens is we'll try to take the wisdom of the world and apply it to God, when it's supposed to be the other way around. Matthew 7 talks about that. If you ever go back and read that, we probably won't dive into it tonight to save time, but really Matthew 7 talks about that. How we judge others, how we have 2 types of wisdom. James is talking right here, once again, he's going back on those 2 types of wisdom, because the world will tell us college, cars, clothes, money, education, experience, all of these things are all you need to have wisdom in the world. But with God, it's the Holy Spirit. He says, if you want wisdom, ask for it. He says, I will send you someone that will teach you everything that I've taught you, and that is the Holy Spirit, and he will never leave you. He will actually dwell inside of you. And so James is sitting right here, and I think in this time frame, which sometimes we get this way in the church, if I'm completely honest, and it's kind of where the church might be a little bit, and where my brain is a little bit in the church, if I'm completely honest with you sometimes, because I'm a very business-minded person. So it would be really easy for me to always take the church as a business, right? But the church isn't a business. A church is a tool. A church is a platform. A church is actually us. A church is us together doing something that God's called us to. But yet so many times the world would say a good church is X, Y, and Z. Has X amount of people, has X amount of dollars in the bank, X amount of places that it is, X amount of worship services, X amount of children's ministries, X amount of ministries that it's part of, like all of these things is what worldly wisdom would say the church is. And if we're not careful, James is trying to remind us, we'll buy into that. Because see, at this time the church is scattered all throughout Rome. So they're learning the Roman Empire and the Roman ways, and they've been brought up in the Roman ways. Because remember, he's writing to the Gentiles and the Jews. And they know all the Roman ways. And so they're going to apply that to the church. And they think this is the way it goes. But remember, not everybody should be a teacher because they're more strictly held to a higher standard. So here we are. We're talking about godly wisdom versus worldly wisdom. One thing I wanted to tell you about godly wisdom when I talked about your words is I just wrote down one word with godly wisdom: peace. I mean, that's what godly wisdom is literally peace. Peace. So with us, we could have, 7 billion people in the world. I wrote that down. If it's all about me and 7 billion people in the world live, it's all about me. Yeah, some chaos, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That'd be some craziness. Because one person would say, I don't have to stop at red lights. The other person would say, I don't have to go at green lights, or maybe I only go to green lights. Like everybody doing their own thing. It's just chaos everywhere. There's two kinds of wisdom. So James says it this way: who is wise and understanding among you? Let them show it by their good life. Remember last week we said your good works are actually how you show your faith, not the other way around. Let them show it by their good life, by the deeds done in humility that comes from wisdom, not wisdom, the Holy Spirit, right? Not the worldly wisdom. But if you harbor bitter envy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast about it or deny the truth. Such wisdom does not come down from heaven, but it is earthly, unspiritual, and demonic.
Oh, well.
It is Halloween, yo. Like, it is crazy. Like, don't boast about it. For where you have envy and selfish ambition, where it's all about you, and you want to rip everybody else down around you because it's all about you, which is a lot of times what happens, isn't it? I mean, there's not a more appropriate time to talk about James 3 than the world we're in right now. Like, tell you, the church has the answer. I believe that we all getting to be the church have the answer that the world is searching for, but so many times it's, my answer's better than yours, so I'm going to rip you down because my answer's better than yours, even inside the church. And James is seeing this because the Jews are telling the Gentiles, our way is better than your way. And he's reminding them it's not. There's one way to the Father, and that's Jesus, right? Yes, Yahweh. For where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you will find disorder and every evil practice. 7+ billion people doing their own way. But wisdom that comes from heaven is first this, all pure. This is where I said peace. Wisdom from heaven is pure, then peace-loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy, good fruit, impartial, and sincere. Sounds like Ephesians 5, right? We talk about that. Peacemakers who sow in peace reap a harvest in righteousness. So the way of the world is chaos. The way of Jesus is peace. So I wonder what wisdom we're seeking. I wonder what wisdom we're seeking. Because I told you in Matthew 7, you ever go back and read that, Jesus talks about the wise and foolish builders at the very end of that. He also talks about judging others in the very beginning of Matthew 7. And he talks about these true and false disciples, true and false prophets. And remember, he talked about the builders that had wisdom. They built their house on the beach, right? Had the best views. Oh, imagine the parties they had. Weren't they great? Had the best ocean views. Then the storm came. The person who had their house built on the rock is the one who had to survive. So this is how this builds up. I wonder if this is reversed. I wonder if our godly wisdom is shown in our words, or our worldly wisdom is shown in our words. Because either way, what James is reminding us is out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. So our words will show whether we're in godly wisdom or worldly wisdom. And the blueprint for living a Christian life is godly wisdom will always be pure, peace-loving, submissive. It'll have all the fruit of the Spirit. Worldly wisdom will have all the cars, will have all the tear down, will have the fire. Like, it'll have all those things, right? Like, it'll have all of that, right? And sometimes isn't it just fun burning something down? Like, seriously, isn't it something this time of year we have the bonfires? Just throw everything in there, right? Like, just throw all your junk in, and then you eat marshmallows and you feel good about life, and it tastes funny, right? Like, you know, mouth's all stuck together.
Tyler, you know I'm a little crazy.
I'm always
You
crazy.
really got off on that fire.
Well, no, because we have for real, the fire, though. That's what our tongues do. We don't realize it. And it's hard to contain, isn't it? Because once the fire starts, it's pretty.
Right.
You gotta keep it going. Like, the neighbors are mad. Ah, well, throw another door in. Like, you know, you just keep throwing some, yeah, bring the couch out. Let's burn it, right? Like, for real. I'm not being as crazy, but I think it's harder to tame. Like, I imagine that man that just wanted to have his gender reveal party that is just as expensive as the wedding now. He just wanted everybody to celebrate what the gender of his baby was. But the fire from that one bullet, that one ammunition, spread so far.
I'm wrapping my head around.
I am too, because I'm wondering if it was supposed to blow up. Like, I don't know everything about this. He confessed to it.
I'm just saying.
Well, I mean, you know, maybe it was a balloon that blew up, or maybe he just had an explosion that was supposed to happen. Something happened, and they know that that's what sparked the fire. And now he has to live with that devastation. The difference in our life is when we don't have words that rip it apart. A lot of times we're not the one that lives in the wake of the devastation. It's everyone else that has to live in it. But at the same time, when we speak words of life, when we have godly wisdom, we will never see the fullness of it until eternity, of the life of our words. So the thing is, how strong are our words, and where is it coming from? Because when I'm angry, I'm tired, man, I'm kicking and screaming. I'm like that 6-month-old crying, right? Like, aren't we all that way? And we've just had it. Our hands are up. We've had enough. Not in worship, but we just cuss the kid out, or we just cuss the neighbor out, or we just cuss the person that we don't even know that cut us off in McDonald's or something. I don't know, because they got the last milkshake before the machine broke. Whatever. It is what it is, like, right? But then the next thing, we're praising God because we've got the Christian station cranked to the top of it. Yes, I love this song! Right? Like, we're doing that. And then while we're doing it, we're running the red like, why did you honk at me, you honkity honk honk? Like, right? Like, you're just dropping. And so I wonder what Jesus has been telling me, and I'm just sharing you, where I'm not perfect, is the power of my words. This is the power of my words.
Wow.
How strong can they be, right? But like, we do that, right? And then we wonder why we can't influence others. That's why we lose our influence. Is because they only see death in us. They don't see life. Because they see a bad tree bearing bad fruit, not a good tree bearing good fruit. And there's nothing that can distinguish that. Are we perfect? Shoot, no. I'm not perfect. I won't be perfect. But I'm telling you, that's just where Jesus is just reminding me through James. Hey, there's something bigger going on here. There's something greater going on here. Something that you can't even imagine or see. No eye has seen, no ear has heard, no mind has even fathomed what Jesus has done before us, the good works He's prepared before us to do. And I wonder if I take my words that seriously. Or do I just try to tear down? Am I submissive? Am I peaceful? So, going into marriages, going into relationships. That's kind of what I have for us tonight. So, here's the things that I would love for us to talk through, and we'll stop this, and then we'll spend a few minutes, and then we'll pray like we always do, because I don't have all the answers. Are your words bringing life and edification to your own and others' lives? Then how can you live out godly wisdom over worldly